Welcome back to Dobby's Repairs. I'm Dobby the Fixing Elf. In this video I'll show you how to do an oil change on a Mk2 Ford Focus with a 1.6 litre diesel engine. I'll show you the tips and tricks to make this job as easy as possible and help keep your car running smoothly. So grab your tools and let's get fixing. The first step is get the car jacked up in the air. As you can see, I've already got it jacked up here. Yours may also have a splash shield underneath that's usually held in by a couple of 10mm bolts all around it. And there's a 21mm sump bolt that we need to remove in a minute. Yeah, to get the camera set up in a decent position. And here's this little arrow so you can see where the 21mm is. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward. All we need to do is break it loose. And it's highly recommended that you replace the cross washer when you do this. We'll be doing that a bit later on. I will also replace the sump bolt as well, or sump plug. Yeah, just break it loose. It should come out relatively easy. I also should add that it was absolutely tipping down when I was doing this job. So I haven't opened the bonnet at the top, but you'll see that in just a moment. But yeah, we'll quickly get this bolt out. They can be rather stubborn sometimes. This one was particularly stubborn. But it's all coming out nice and loose now. And then we'll see the lovely oil come out. There it comes. As you can see, it's pretty dark and pretty grim. This oil change is a bit overdue. And while this oil is draining out, we'll just talk about safely keeping the car up. As you can see, I've got under two actual stands under here to keep it nice and safe. And there's a drain pan, so I'm collecting all the oil and make sure I dispose of it properly after this. But yeah, as you can see, it's all draining out relatively easily, relatively quickly. Just speed things up a bit now so we don't sit there and watch the whole thing. But yeah, it holds 3.8 litres this car, so there's plenty of oil to come out. Not as much as some, but it does take a few minutes to drain out. Oh, this isn't a very long job, about half an hour in total, including jacking the car and draining the oil and refilling. It's about the average time I find. Usually when I'm waiting for the oil to drain out, I'll have a look around the car, see if I can spot any damage or anything that I need to replace. So I'll check all the rubber bushings, the CV boots, and just generally have a good look around, see if there's anything I notice that's dodgy or needs replacing. For instance, on this car I noticed that the gearbox mount needed replacing while I was waiting for this oil to drain out. And yeah, just generally look around and check everything. You can also start work at removing the oil filter at the top. I haven't started that because I was just filming this part up, but I'll show you that in just a moment. This one's a bit more complex than most, with a few different things we have to do. The oil's drained out now, so let's go back up top. As you can see, it's absolutely tipping it down up here. It was a particularly wet day when this job was on, so we had to make do and just carry on. Waterproof, that's why I didn't open the bonnet straight away. And now the oil filter housing is underneath the air filter housing in this job, so we need to remove that. As you can see, it's just there. The little black box in the corner near the headlight here. You will see me taking it apart in this video. You don't have to do that. So first you need to remove this cover on the top. This little decorative cover is held in by two 10mm. Unfortunately one of them is missing on this car, so there's a 110mm to undo on this one, but normally two. One is directly opposite the other one. But as you can see, we'll just work out. It's quite a stiff bolt. I've actually taken out the little bolt underneath, so it's a bit more of a challenge than you expect, but it does come out relatively easy normally. So now we've got the cover off. We can now remove the air intake from the turbo. As you can see, the air filter box is open because I was also doing air filter in this video, but we're not showing that in this video. And this is just a 7mm that we need to undo. And you just undo this band, and we can disconnect the air box from the turbo. And you'll get this off nice and simply. There we are, it's nice and loose now. So you pop off nice and simply like that. And now we just need to remove this little breather hose, this piece which is at the top here, so we'll pull it up. As you can see, I didn't quite notice the breather hose on the top, so just unclip that. A little plastic clip, and all you have to do is just pull it back and it'll pop off relatively easily. It is a bit harder to do in the rain, so I'm struggling a tiny bit to get it off. Normally it pops off fairly simply. There we are, I've got it off now, and we just lift this out the way. There's another little hose, so you just got to be careful of how we lift it up. Obviously, you haven't undone your airbox, it'll be a bit heavier, but it's just held on by some little rubber grommets that we just need to pop out. Nothing too serious, it just comes out fairly simply once you've done that. I'll just pop it up the way there. And now here is the 27mm oil filter housing, and we're going to break that loose with a ratchet and an oil filter socket. There is a link in the description to this tool and all the tools I've used in this video. I'd recommend moving your catch pan slightly across, so there will be a bit of oil that drips out down the bottom as well, and obviously once you remove the filter it lets some more air into the system and puts some more oil down for the sump plug hole, so just bear that in mind. If you haven't got a very big drain pan, maybe put some paper towel under the filter housing here and keep the drain pan in place. You drip out a bit, make a lovely little mess down the side of the engine, but we'll clean up in just a second. There we go, that's going to drip out. There we are, we've got the oil filter out now. Now we can have a quick tidy up and a quick clean up. I'm just using a bit of brake clean here just to clean up any oil and just spray it all down. But I clean out the inner housing bit here, as you can see. So I'm just going to do a quick spray and then get some paper towel and wipe out all the excess dirty oil. It does take a little while to drain down sometimes. We'll clean it out with a paper towel. And there we are, that's all cleaned out. Now we can move on to prepping the oil filter housing to go back in. The first thing to do is to remove the oil filter. It just pulls out. There's some plastic tabs at the top, as you can just see there. And now I'm going to put a piece of paper towel down to catch the excess oil and remove the old O-ring. Your new oil filter should come with a replacement O-ring. And they're fairly simple, just use a flat blade screwdriver here. Normally use a pick or a smaller screwdriver, but this is the one I had to hand in this job. So just quickly hook it under the edge here and get the old O-ring off. There we go. And remove that nice and simply. Now we can put the new one on. Luckily I don't need to lube up this O-ring because there's plenty of old oil on here, so as we put it on it'll lube itself up and make sure it doesn't snag on anything. And yeah, the easiest way to do it is start it on one side and just work your way around. It can be a bit fiddly. There we go. Get it roughly into place, and you want to make sure that it's not kinked up or twisted up at all. So I'm going to go around and make sure it's all in the right spot. There's a little groove just at the bottom of the housing here. You can see where the O-ring's settling down. And when you're doing this job yourself, you'll notice it. Just make sure it's all smoothed out. Sometimes you need to get the screwdriver back in and just pull it away a bit and just untwist it, because you don't want it to be twisted, otherwise it will cause a leak. There we are, and it's all smoothed out now. And yeah, it's quite a straightforward little thing. We just want to run around and make sure it's all smooth and not kinked up anywhere. That is the key to making sure you don't get a leak from the oil filter housing. Just replace this O-ring every time we do an oil change. Like I said, most filters come with it. Now this is a slightly different car because I didn't film me putting the oil filter into this particular car, but it's got a similar makeup and the same engine. A slightly different design. I believe this is a Peugeot, but this is this sort of way you've got to do it. So put your new filter cartridge in the housing in the car, and then we just have to push our cap back on and give it a good wiggle, and it'll pop on, and then we can start tightening it down. And there we are. We'll just start it by hand. Always want to start this by hand, and then you tighten it down with 27mm afterwards. Unfortunately I didn't film this. I've hit record but it didn't record, which is typical. So I've got this bit of footage in. And yeah, once you get it all nice and tightened down, torque it down to 25 Newton meters, as you can see here. And yeah, it's all nice and secure. Now I can move on to putting the air filter back in. So air filter box back in as well. So the first thing to do is get it back in and push it back into place. Hook the breather pipe back on, it should pop on nice and easily. Put the pipe back onto the turbo and just push it down. Obviously if you've got the lid on it makes it a bit easier, it's a bit easier to push down. There's also a little breather pipe from the front here that I didn't see removing, but as I pulled it up it popped off. So yeah, you just want to quickly pop it back on. This is the air intake. That goes on that way and it just pushes back onto the airbox as well. Again, this is easier if you haven't taken the airbox apart. That's why I haven't shown you me taking the airbox apart. And then we'll tighten down the 7mm, or you can also use a flat-headed screwdriver on this as well, which makes it nice and easy. but I'm just using a 7mm on my 1/4 inch ratchet here just to speed things up. And if you've got electric hand tools, it makes this job even quicker. Obviously I wouldn't use an impact, but like an electric ratchet, like I've shown you in previous videos, they work perfect on these sort of jobs. Now we'll go back underneath, and here's our new sump plug and crush washer. It's very important you replace the crush washer every single time you do this job. It just makes sure you don't get any leaks, and we don't want any leaks because they're pain. So yeah, I'm just going to tighten it down by hand with the ratchet. Always started it by hand as always. We're going to tighten it down nice and tight, and then we'll come back and torque it down afterwards to 37 nm. Just get it nice and snug. We're going to clean it up before I torque it down, just to make sure there's no leaks or anything when we put the oil back in. And yeah, we'll wipe down with a bit of paper towel now. There we are, and we'll torque it down to 34 Nm. I'll do that off camera though. We're going to put the plastic cover back on top. You don't have to put this back on now, but I like to put it on, especially when it's raining like this, to protect the engine and the injectors on this. So yeah, we'll put the 10mm bolt back in and just tighten it down. Just always start by hand, and there we go. That's going down nice and tight now. And now we're going to put some oil in it, so I'll get my funnel to open the cap. Normally we would open the cap earlier in this video, but because it's raining I didn't want any water getting into the engine. Pull the dipstick up and just give it a wipe off. I'll pop it to one side. Yeah, we're going to wipe it off now, there we go. And now we're going to put about 3.5 litres of 530 oil in the car. I'm using Manual here. It's a pretty good brand. I found it really useful and my customers seem to like it, and it works really well for the cars I've used it in so far. And okay, you're dumping about 3.5 litres first, and I'll obviously check for leaks and everything as I'm doing it. There we go, a bit more. Yes, it's about 3.5 litres there. And then we'll check the oil on the dipstick, make sure it's at the full mark before we start the engine. And fill up the oil filter, and then we'll double check the oil after we've run the engine for 10 minutes. We'll turn it off, let it cool down for 5 or so minutes. There we go. Check the oil, and that's at a fairly good level. So we'll wipe it off and pop it back in, and then we'll remove the funnel and put the cap back on and start the engine. To take the funnel out of the way there. Always very important. Always important before you start the engine to put the cap back on, the oil filler neck. There we are. Now after you've run it for a bit, double check the levels, make sure it's at the full mark and there's no leaks. We're all good, and that's how you change the oil on a Mk2 Ford Focus for a 1.6 litre diesel engine. If you found this video helpful, drop a like and consider subscribing for more. And huge shout out to my Fixing Club members Mako, Rodney and Jason. Thank you for support. You help me make videos like this and all the other videos I make for the channel. Thank you very much, and if you'd like to join the Fixing Club, link in the description down below. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps both the channel and me out. If you're new here, consider subscribing. I post 2 videos a week, so by subscribing you'll never miss a thing. Got any questions or suggestions? Drop a comment down below, and I'll do my best to reply to everyone. Here at Dobby Repairs, we're all about helping you learn how to work on your vehicle safely and showing you don't need to spend a fortune on tools to get the job done. Want to support the channel further? Become a member, starting at just 99p. Members get perks like early access to videos and more exclusive content. Keep fixing, and I'll see you in the next one.